Hello, welcome back. Sari here at Destiny Palmistry. I hope you've enjoyed my previous videos. This one is going to be about the fingers and how they show the real you. And that is because of looking at the length and the shape of the finger. The shape can sometimes change for an adult, but the length normally. Once your hand is fully grown, you either have short fingers or you have long fingers, or you have average fingers. So we're going to talk about how the length and shape can tell your character. And if you've watched the video on hand shape, that one, you can combine the meanings of the overall hand shape with the look of the hand with the length and thickness of the fingers. So we're going to talk about those. I hope you have your notepad and pen ready. And I hope you have subscribed so that you can get all of my videos. You can click to receive notifications when I've made a new one. And I've got lots more to come. So let's get this started and we will look at the long fingers first. So here is your long fingers. You can see that they are longer than the palm because this one has a square palm. It shows a mentally active, logical, and intelligent person. They're quite patient and they like to think things through thoroughly. So they're a little bit more of a slow thinker. They need variety and they need change. They can be uncompassionate or cold in some instances. The long fingers, when there's a long palm, show similar traits. They have a careful eye for details. They're still patient and easygoing. But these guys with the longer palm are more fussy and more sensitive and more introverted. They still are slow thinking and they have good communication skills and good memory. Here with the short fingers, you have somebody that's more quick thinking. They have a lot of energy. They're open-minded, generous, brave. If they're thin and short, it shows somebody more tactful. And if they're thick, it shows somebody more blunt. The short-fingered person is always more impatient and they don't particularly like details. As you can see by those two examples, the vast differences in the long fingers, which shows more patience and someone with an eye for detail, and the short fingers, someone who doesn't really care much for details and they are more impatient. So if you think about the length of the fingers as a thought pattern, for the long fingers, the thought starts and takes longer to get to the tip of the finger. And whereas the short fingers, it takes less time to go from A to B, so they can snap their decisions. The downside with being able to be quick with their decisions is they can be impulsive and they can make mistakes because they're not worried about the details. They can see the big picture and they go, I know what I've got to do, bang, let's get it done, and they get to the end. They may have left something out. They may have made mistakes in between. The slower thinking, long-fingered person may not see the big picture yet, but they can focus on the details and plan it more carefully with a little bit more purposeful thinking. So there's a big difference between those two. And of course, if you have average length fingers, you're somewhere in between. So I'll go on to a picture of someone with average length fingers and we're going to talk about that thickness and thinness, because I mentioned before that the thick fingered people are more blunt. That's in their speech. So they're more likely to be a bit crude with their words or just say what they're thinking. I'll go on to that. Now here you can see that these fingers don't look particularly short and they don't look exactly long either. So they are the average length, but they are most definitely thick, very blunt looking at the fingertips. That the whole finger for its entire length shows that it's thick right through, so it's very even. And that shows physical and mental strength. As long as they're not soft and flabby, but if they are firm, thick fingers, this person has strength both mentally and physically. They're very down to earth, they're sensual, they're honest, but like I said, they can be very blunt or harsh with their words. They don't waste time, they get jobs done, and they want to get them done fast. With the average length fingers, that's the best kind of quality to have for that case. If they're only thick at the base, like at the first phalange, that is a more materialistic, and someone with a lot of appetite. They love their comforts and luxury and their food and everything that's just luxurious. So if it's only thick at the base of the finger, that's the case for that. And here the thin fingers obviously have the opposite meanings of the thick fingers. These people are more quiet and gentle. They are open and friendly. They're patient and tactful. They're quite more self-disciplined, and they do tend to put others' needs before their own needs. If it's on a fire hand with a slightly longer palm, that can mean that they're athletic as well. So if you can't really tell if they are particularly thin, if the hand is closed and there's still gaps between the base, you can see spaces even when the fingers are closed, that means they are thin. On this picture you can see that there are wide spaces between each finger. So if only one or two fingers are thin, it shows weakness in a specific area, which we may talk about in a different video. So overall, the thin fingers, some are more quiet and passive, they're polite and kind, they're rarely crude or indecent, and they're quite generous as well. So to summarize that, the long fingers, more slow thinking, love of details, short fingers, fast thinking, not care too much for detail, average, somewhere in between. If they're thick, the person is more blunt, they have strength, they're usually physically and mentally strong. The thin fingers, they are more tactful, more quiet, and obviously don't have the same qualities of strength as the thick-fingered people have. Now, they are obviously, if the thick is not soft and flabby. And like I mentioned before, that's only if it's in its entire length. If it's only thick at the base and the tip of the fingers look thin, that's a completely different meaning. And they are a person who loves their luxury, they love their comforts, and they don't have the continuum of the strength of character as well. Right. Just one more thing I wanted to mention. With any finger, if the knuckle shows, some fingers have a smooth look on its entire length, whether it's thick all the way or not thick all the way, but if it's smooth all the way, that shows a much more quick thinking person as well, and they don't tend to analyze things very much. Whereas the opposite way, if the knuckle is very visible, they're very knuckly looking, mine are slightly knuckly looking. I'll give you the finger. You can see if their knuckle sticks out, they're very analytical. That's your non-believer. They're hesitant to believe anything unless they have actual proof, and they will analyze things and they will judge things, and they have a much slower thought as well. Like I mentioned before, when the thought goes from A to B, with the knuckles, it's like a roundabout on a road. The road goes along straight, and then they've got to go around a roundabout before they can continue on their way. So the thought stops, goes around a roundabout, have a good think about it first before they continue. I like that analogy, whatever. I'm not very good with my words, but it doesn't matter. We're talking about palmistry. It's not an English class. Alrighty. I hope you really enjoyed that. I look forward to doing my next one, and I shall see you next time. Please subscribe. Bye.